right. Okay. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this chat that I'm going to have with my dear friends, Erik and Keri. You guys say your names. Can you like switch around the letters so that they spell? That's funny. I just realized that
Yeah,
Keri and Erik.
that's
Uh,
actually a funny story we'll get to that about how we met. One of the first conversations that we actually had.
that's it. I've known you guys for a while, and I never put that together until this moment. So I love that. It's like bookends that belong together. Um, So Erik and Keri have a fabulous business that they have started together called Feral Future. And they are making some really incredible products driven by a really, I think, wonderful and super important mission. And I think they're really nailing it with what they're doing. Keri and I have worked together in the past. She helped me out here at Biofield Tuning for a while and then transitioned to work with Erik and make some magic. And so we're going to talk about some of the very cool things that they're doing and some of the principles that drive what they're doing. They're very similar to what I do. There's actually some really great crossover here. So welcome, guys. And why don't you just take a moment to tell us about Feral Future and what your mission is, what cool things you're doing with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea of feral came to me a while ago. I got kind of deep into the whole rewilding aspect of health and wellness and reconnecting with nature. And the idea of feral really landed with me. Basically, it's the domesticated returning to the wild. And the idea that we live in this domesticated society that sort of sprouted up before we ever had a chance to decide. And then as we lived in it, we sort of, all these problems start to reveal themselves, especially as you become more and more aware of all the things that are kind of going on in the world. And it's sort of, how do you continue to operate within that world, or do you sort of disconnect from it and kind of go back to the way things always used to be? And so the idea of feral future is that, we say the future is feral, and that the way that the domesticated world is, the trajectory essentially doesn't seem to be really moving in a positive and beneficial direction for humanity. And so the future really does lie in reconnecting with nature, going back to the old ways of things that did work, and still bringing along with it all the benefits of the things that are working well today. Like, we don't have to get rid of everything and live in log cabins, but we could live in log cabins and also still have internet. There's no reason to throw the baby out with the bathwater and be troglodytes.
Yeah, wonderful. Keri?
Yeah, so yeah, Erik had this amazing idea, and when he shared it, it was like every cell in my body kind of lit up because it's like even Eileen, how we talk, it's like heaven on earth. It's like we want to experience that while we're here. Like that's why we're here, is to have that type of life. And what has come in and all the stuff that we've kind of been bombarded with, and the programming and conditioning and ancestral stuff, and all the healing and things that we've had to do to really claim that back and claim back our sovereignty, and like also just how powerful we are as humans. And so it's always been like a huge mission to me, is to like feel as good as I possibly can while I'm here. And there's so much that kind of comes in between having that experience. And Feral Future is this, gorgeous vision of kind of like has become our North Star and where we're heading. And we use food as like the doorway in, because once you start, kind of connecting back to this ancestral diet, you start activating things within your body that make you feel more alive. And then you're like, well, what else is possible? Like, what else have I not known about? And it with everything that's going on, having something that feels so um just, it does feel possible. It feels possible. It feels beautiful. It feels necessary to kind of do the things that can provide this like heaven on earth. And to me, that's what Feral Future is, and such a big part of what Erik has shared. And really, we were living a very similar life before we came together, just passionate about healthy living and also like what's really going on in the world, because there's like what we're told, and then it's like, asking bigger questions and going deeper. And also, like I said, like knowing how powerful we all are. And so when we came together, it felt like this is like our mission as a couple, you know, in love and in business now, to really help share this. And like I said, food is just the doorway. It really helps to connect into, you know, the spiritual component, which Erik is really passionate about. And there's a lot of different elements of Feral Future, but Feral Foods is just a really beautiful collection of things that we kind of, you know, with both of our backgrounds, we kind of brought it to life.
Yeah, it's definitely like an extension of our own life that we found that works really well for us, that we're just trying to share with everybody else. So everything that we're doing, you know, we consider ourselves a lifestyle brand, but, you know, we're starting with food, and there's a lot of other things that we want to get into that encapsulates all of those ideas.
Nice. So tell us about the food. What kinds of foods are you making, and how are you purveying them?
So we initially launched the company. So we were both living in LA, and then we moved up to the San Ynez Valley, which is just inland from Santa Barbara. It's essentially the Santa Barbara, California wine country. And they call it God's country. It really is a beautiful place. And one of the things that we found when we landed here was that there was these amazing farm stands and farm to table restaurants, but there was really a lack of convenience food that kind of captured those beneficial things that we really appreciated so much. And so we actually were inspired to start the business once we got up here a few years ago. And we started doing meals in mason jars, essentially pre-prepared meals in mason jars. And we leveraged the kind of farm stand honor system with these kiosks where you would, you know, grab a mason jar with elk chili or wild boar pasta, the turkey wild rice soup. I was making all these products with local produce, all from the local farmers market and farm stands, and then meats that were less domesticated. Because the idea of, you know, you are what you eat really kind of taps into, there's a spiritual component. It's not just proteins, carbs, and fats, and vitamins and minerals. There's like an energetic quality that I know you're very passionate about, and that really connects with us. And so the idea of, you know, if you think of the energy of like an elk living in the forest and fending off wolves and, you know, growing horns and fighting to the death for mates, versus like your average cow that's standing in a field, if they're lucky, eating grass, if not in a feedlot, you know, eating corn. What type of energy are you getting from the food that you're eating? And so we really wanted to kind of take in that idea of, you are what you eat, from, you know, the high quality, but also the energetic component of food, and these things that we're eating. We're, you know, food is life. You're eating something that was living before, and we want to embody the characteristics of the thing that we're eating. So we're choosing the things that have the characteristics that we want to kind of express in our lives. That was a really fun intro to the business, but we found that it didn't scale well. It was, you know, very costly to make. There were shelf life issues. There was a number of things that kind of prevented it from being something that we were ready to move forward with at a bigger level. And so we kind of shifted to more of our pantry collection, which is the herbs and spices that I was using in my food, that we put together with really high quality ingredients and in a very healthful, intentional way. And then we also have some teas, a number of teas that we've created for a number of benefits. Our namesake Feral Tea, for example, has moringa, dandelion, nettle, lemon balm, and ginger. And it's a really, you know, health benefiting is vitamins, minerals, nutrients, electrolytes. And it's really just like a multivitamin, delicious beverage that's super hydrating, that you can drink all day, every day, instead of water, without any of the kind of issues of you know, the typical products that you might find elsewhere. And then one of our kind of premier products, or our top products, is our organic grass-fed gelatin marshmallows. And those have been a big hit for us. And the fun part is you were a major inspiration for this product even coming to the market.
Yeah, tell us that story. I love those marshmallows. They're just so good in a coffee.
Oh
It's
my
like an
God.
evening coffee. I don't know how I feel about marshmallows in my morning coffee, but on the rare occasion when I make an evening cappuccino, having one of those marshmallows in it is top.
So good. Well, yeah. So the marshmallows went back to, was it 2022 when you got into your motorcycle accident?
Yeah.
So this was right before I met Erik, and I was living in Boulder during that experience. And I remember one of your healing modalities from one of your doctors was to get gelatin in your morning coffee. Like the two really help synthesize bone to help repair. And I had never heard of this before. And I've been in like health and wellness for, you know, it's like over 15 years at this point. And I'm like, how did I not hear about this? And that week I went into this like Boulder coffee shop, and on the menu was like organic grass-fed marshmallow for $1. And I was like, like, oh my God. And I put it in my coffee, and it had like the most gorgeous like stick that put up, over it. And it was the most beautiful drink I'd ever had with this delicious marshmallow. And I was like, this is just heaven. And I tried to find them all over the country. And I would just search, organic grass-fed marshmallow. And there was companies that were doing it, but they still had preservatives in there or synthetics or things holding them together. And I wanted it to be like completely like this perfect marshmallow that I found in Boulder. And I feel like I found a company and I sent you some, but it wasn't perfect. And then I met Erik, and I tried to, and he's, cooking for me all these gorgeous like meals and all this ancestral stuff that he knows about. And we're just doing tons of collagen. And I tried to make them myself. And so I came home because I was like, I love these marshmallows. They're so good because we're huge coffee drinkers. I know the three of us are huge coffee drinkers, and it's like the ritual of it all. And I tried to make it, and it just didn't go well. And he was like, let me try. And he made it. And I like, to this day, I call it like his love letter to me, because Erik is all about like acts of service. And he made the most perfect, marshmallow. And it is so decadent and so like good for you. And I was like, this is it. Like, we got it. And so we started going to like coffee shops around where we live and being like, you have to add this to your coffee. Like, it's so good for you. And it's like wildly delicious. And so that was it. And now he's like, he continues, like, we work out of a kitchen, and like a commercial kitchen here in town. And he comes home and he's like, always like, he's an optimizer and an engineer. And like, so he's always like fine tuning the recipe. And we are now shipping them across the country, even with like wild heat waves going on. He's like figured out how to ship.
A little bit of a challenge with this hot summer weather.
And people are like writing to us, and just like the testimonials of like, I haven't slept in 20 years, and like having my marshmallow at night with the gelatin is like helping me sleep, and my gut is helping my gut and my hair and the nails, and like it's just crazy. And we're like, we really are like doing something so cool with this.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, once people get it, it sort of becomes part of their daily ritual. And especially like even here for us. And if we're ever out, it's like Keri's after me, like, we might as well have the power might be out or the internet's down or something. It's like that major of a situation when we're out of marshmallows, because it's such a pillar of our routine nowadays.
Nice. Well, you both have this beautiful, radiant kind of gelatin glow about you. So I think
we're probably in the 99th percentile of gelatin and collagen intake in the US.
Yeah. And I like said a story that like, being from New York, like I have seen every like hairdresser, like every like major hairdresser, and this one man told me my hair would never grow. He's like, you just don't have the hair that grows. And I was like, so bummed. Like, I'm never going to have long hair. And like, my hair has never been longer ever. And it's like, I eat these marshmallows, like sometimes like I have 2 in like every drink. So I can have like 6 a day. And it's crazy. And my hair is, and yeah, like, and we're constantly cutting our nails and all the things. So we're like totally gelatined out. And there's just so many good, amino acids in there. And it's like the glycine has become like, people are starting to understand how important that is. And so, yeah, they're so good. And they're like, what I say is like, healing doesn't have to be so hard. It can be something like that.
It could be fun.
It can be fun.
Well, and also we say decadence doesn't have to be destructive as well.
Yeah. So what are you guys sweetening those with?
It's organic maple syrup
from Vermont.
Oh, Vermont maple syrup. Well, perfect.
Yeah. So organic maple syrup, organic grass-fed beef gelatin, vanilla bean paste, a little bit of sea salt. Yeah, it's a very simple recipe, but there's a technique to it, of course.
Right, exactly, and how you make it. I first got introduced to gelatin many years ago in my Biofield Tuning practice, and I was treating an older gentleman who was in his probably late 70s. And he said to me one day, he said, I've tried everything out there for my arthritis and nothing works better than Knox gelatin. And I thought that was really interesting because at that time, nobody was ever talking about how gelatin was beneficial for arthritis, but it really does provide the sort of essential building blocks of cartilage and the sort of gummy stuff that we need to have going on in us. And at the time, I had a 220-pound English Mastiff who had many years before, he had stepped on a nail in one of my husband's construction sites, and it had gone way up in his paw, and we got it out. But when he got older, he started to develop arthritis in that joint and started limping. And so when I learned about gelatin, I started putting the Knox gelatin, unflavored Knox gelatin, on his food. I just sprinkle it on it, and his limp went away. And then I ran out one time, and then I kept forgetting to get it, and his limp came back. And then as soon as I got him back on the gelatin, his limp went away again. And so for me, that was enough evidence, and people are going out and they're getting all these expensive supplements and things like that. And yet gelatin is such a simple, it's such an available product. And it's so helpful for so many things in the body. Right.
Yeah.
And so getting the
Gut lining
organic grass fed as opposed to like Knox, which is probably from industrial production. And then putting it in such a deliverable form, right? I think it's total genius.
Yeah, absolutely. We've found that's really a big deal. We also have a cocoa that we have developed that goes along with it, that we add collagen to. So it's like a double dose of both gelatin and collagen, which are like almost identical chemically. They're just a minor variation. So they're kind of doing the same thing. But yeah, it's really good for the gut lining as well. And a lot of issues with autoimmune is a gut lining issue. And arthritis can also be just an inflammatory condition due to, issues with the gut. And so it's working on so many levels, as well as, your eyes can improve, your skin improves, and you just feel better because your body can have the building blocks and foundational components it needs to do what it needs to do. It really is one of those superfoods, and make it easy to get, and all of a sudden life can be much better.
Yeah.
Nice. Yay. Well, I'm sure after hearing that you have hot chocolate and marshmallows that confer massive health benefits,
Yes.
people would be pretty excited to get those.
It's so crazy. Like the cocoa too is like helping people because there's like cocoa has, we get the best organic raw cacao, and it has natural magnesium in it. So people are, again, to be supporting people on their health journeys, but through a different doorway that's actually like easy and fun and delicious is like the most heartwarming thing that we can possibly be doing right now. Like it's like creating ritual, it's creating like experience, to support people in their sleep. That's something I'm so passionate about. And then, it helps with like blood sugar because it has a little bit of protein in there as well. And it just kind of stabilizes you because a lot of people wake up in the middle of the night from like a blood sugar dip. And, all the collagen, the gelatin, the magnesium really stabilizes people. So it's like this incredible treat. And then, so you could have it before bed, and then you could add it to your coffee for like a mocha. So yeah, it's been really fun. And, my background is I came from a lot of natural beauty brands. And so I'm like, eat your skincare. There's like such a different angle now that's like, yes, I love like beauty products. Like I love potions and scents. Like I'm so sensorial, and I love beautiful everything. But the fact that now, like it's such an internal job, it's like the food, and then obviously the emotional part, like the two together are so huge because you can do all the things, but if you don't cover that, there's no serum, there's no product, there's no injectable that's going to like make that change. It's such an inside job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's something that is really often overlooked in the beauty industry is what you're eating, how you're eating. And so getting all that good stuff in there is, I've been having fantasies lately about growing potatoes. My friend Topher Gardner makes what he calls biochar. Are you familiar with biochar, Erik?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I was at an event that he put on last month, and there were folks there doing electroculture. They were demonstrating electroculture, like copper antennas and wires, and so just like what you've done with the hot chocolate and marshmallows, and you've taken something that's sort of like maybe looked at as like, not good for you and made it good for you. Um, Being very Irish and having quite a love of potatoes, I want to create these like electrically charged potato chips that, where the potatoes are grown with electroculture, with biochar, that they're cooked in kettles and spiral stirred and then salted with like, really good quality salt that has like the full spectrum of minerals so that
Amazing you
when
mentioned
you
that
eat.
because we actually do full spectrum salt. That's a feral
Well, there
based
you go.
product.
We'll
So
use your
nice little.
salt. Jack on the salt thing. To again take something that we look at as maybe being wicked and turn it into something that's actually really good for you, that you can feel
Totally.
good about eating.
Totally. I know. And it's like the programs. It's all of like these programs that we've been taught, like all these things are so bad for us. And it's like, yeah, maybe a certain way or a certain how we used to do it, but like it takes them a little bit to actually be like, oh, this is actually good for me, and I don't have to feel guilty for
Right.
doing it.
Well,
Right.
and you think about like the early days of McDonald's, they were real potatoes that were cooked in, beef tallow. It was, fresh ground beef and fresh vegetables on a traditionally made, wheat bun. And wasn't that bad for you. And compared to what it is now, it's so far from what it used to be that it's somebody thinking, oh, I used to have McDonald's and it's fine. It's not the same thing. It's not
Mhm.
what it used to be. But all of these things that we think of as our normal food, like there's an origin story to it. And there's no reason, it's the same thing with, people think that red meat is bad for you, but is a grass-fed steak and a burger that's made from 1,000 different cows that are questionable sourced and cooked in seed oils, is that the same thing? Or it's really understanding all of those levels of things. And I don't think there's anything that we could eat that's like, if it's made properly, is truly bad for you if it's done with
Mhm.
like real stuff. And
Yeah,
just again, it's just going back to what always
right.
was.
I think that's a factor that's so missing in the conversation about food, is the quality of the food. Because people be like, red meat is bad for you, but that is such a wide spectrum. I get my red meat from a friend who has maybe 50 cows. They're all grass fed. They're really well taken care of, really well loved cows, and the beef from her cows is astonishingly good, right? And it's such a different thing than a feedlot cattle or a McDonald's burger, right? So that you can't even lump them in the same category, right? Same with things like coffee, like gas station coffee with tap water, Splenda, and the creamer gunk is really different than a high quality coffee that's created with love and made with organic milk. And so it sounds like, such a big part of what is informing you guys is that you want to have the best quality, but also the best energetic quality
Right.
as well, which is really so key. And then that minor difference makes a huge difference. So Erik, you made me curious. What else do you have on the counter under there? You've got salt. What else do you have?
Yeah. So I
Hiding?
mean, it's just funny because you had mentioned a salt with a full spectrum of minerals, and we literally call our salt full spectrum salt. It's a blend of Himalayan salt, kosher salt, and sea salt. The idea you're getting a blend of all three in a more complete mineral profile instead of a one note thing, which actually nourishes the body in a more complete way. Look at our cocoa here. So that's got our, Keri was talking about it. It's a raw and Dutch process blend, so it's not too bitter. It's got coconut milk powder, so there's no dairy in it. Functional mushrooms, lion's mane, chaga, cordyceps, and maitake,
Wow.
and collagen. And then just a little bit of coconut sugar as like for balance, like a pinch of salt kind of a thing. It's just, if you look at the ingredients label, the sugar is actually the last thing on it, where most cocos you look at, it's like first or second. It's one of the top ingredients. And so it's really interesting when people have it because I created the cocoa as a coffee additive initially. It was kind of what we were already putting in our coffee. And then, Kelly Brogan, over the holidays, we did her inflammation reset, which is
yeah, her VMR. She has like that 44-day Vital Mind Reset program. So we did it together, and it's a nervous system inflammation reset. So caffeine had to go, and all refined sugar had to go. So this came, like our cocoa and mallows kind of came out of Kelly's experience, which was really amazing.
It was cool because the mallows already met the spec, because maple syrup was already kind of on the approved list because it's a superfood in itself. And then coconut sugar being an alternative for sweetness was really nice to have. But the cool thing about this is we have a friend who does, Meredith at Palma Collectiva. She does all kinds of cacao ceremonies and full moon ceremonies and is very much into a very spiritual, connected way. And she finds it's like her second favorite cocoa besides the cacao that she does for her ceremonies. But on the other side, like my kids, I used to try to get them to drink cocoa with raw cacao, and no matter how much sugar I added, it was too bitter for them. But they enjoy this cocoa, especially with the marshmallows. And so here I have like the most hardcore cacao enthusiast and my kids who like have no interest in it whatsoever, and they can both enjoy it and see the benefits from it. So that's one of the fun little things that have come out of developing these things and working with the different tastes and palates of the people that are around us. So.
Yeah, and it's like family friendly because it doesn't have to be like so grown up. It's like we're very aware of like the food supply and what kids traditionally eat. And so, you know, we're always trying to, like with Eric's boys, like get them to eat the healthy things that we're eating. Like, why, of course they should have collagen. Like it's great for their bones. It's, you know, all this stuff is like great for their growing brains. Like it doesn't have to be like adult food and kids food. It's like real food.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. It's just real food. You know, we bring in the highest quality organic possible. Like our certifications are even like tighter than what it's like what organic used to be.
Yeah, the Oregon Till certification is a more strict version of USDA, and there's a few other things that they kind of focus on with regenerative and sustainable practices. So, you know, we want to be, you know, and I'm not even, as you know, the organic certification doesn't really mean what it used to or have the same level of benefit. But regardless, you know, that's what's available and that's what we have to work with. So until there's a better situation, yeah, that's what we're going for. It's the best we can. So yeah, we got our organic marshmallows as well. So these are our bags of marshmallows, and we're making these a couple times a week and shipping, you know, all over the country. We also have our brewing system, our flask that we do for our
this
for
is
our teas.
And for your Arnold Palmers, because I mean, you're like also like the Arnold Palmer is like your
Arnold
favorite
Palmers.
drink. And when Erik like nailed this recipe, I was like, oh my God, it's like a natural Arnold Palmer. Like this is the most delicious thing ever. Like caffeine free, no sugar, just natural, like the most potent herbs that, you know, we bring in from around the world.
Yeah.
To like make this, you know, feral tea in this feral flask that he put together, the brewing system.
It fits any wide mouth, and there's a screen in the lid, so it makes it really easy to do loose leaf teas. That can be challenging if you don't have a dedicated loose leaf tea brewing system. And so to have it be mason jar based, you can do hot or cold. That sits in our fridge pretty much all the time with our feral tea brewed with a whole lemon in there. And we just drink on that all day long, and it's hydrating us. And I kind of have a fun testimonial about the tea as well. I do some private chef work, and there was a group of cowboys that are here in town that come in every year for an event, and they like to party and go out late and, you know, have a good time. And I did a breakfast, and I brought coffee, and I brought the tea, and one of the guys came over to me afterwards and said, you know, he was feeling pretty rough, you know, probably finished off a bottle of Jack Daniels by himself, and had a big ride, you know, out in the sun all day, and was like not looking forward to it. He's like, I don't know what's in that tea, but coffee didn't work for me. I was feeling rough, and I drink that tea, and all of a sudden it's like I'm back, and I'm going to make it through the day. And sort of one of of the most unexpected but most powerful testimonials I've ever gotten for it from someone who might not otherwise be motivated to share. So that was kind of a fun deal.
Nice. All right. What else? Is there more in the product line? Well, I have a bunch of, I have your herbs. I have your garlic salt. I mean, I'm using these when I'm cooking for sure.
Yeah. So the garlic salt's fun. I grew up on Lowry's garlic salt, which I know is not a high quality product. And I love the flavor, if not because it was good. It was just what I was, you know, had grown up with and had that kind of connection to home. And so when I created that, I had never been able to find a replacement for it of high quality that had kind of the flavor and texture that Lowry's garlic salt had. So yeah, I took my full spectrum salt and kind of looked at their recipe of what they did with, you know, granulated and minced garlic, get a little bit of texture, and added the parsley, and kind of created my own high quality organic version of Lowry's garlic salt. And I think I nailed it.
Yeah.
We also made the label the lime green so that you kind of have the visual awareness of, you get used to that bright green lid on the Lowry's garlic salt and you reach for it. Like I kind of took over the place of that green connection. Yeah, and so we have an herb blend that I use in a lot of my food. It's an Italian style blend: oregano, thyme, basil, a little rosemary, and marjoram. But it's really kind of a superfood, food as medicine kind of product. Again, with that really high quality organic that we're building off of. We almost think of it like vegetables because it's so high quality that you can kind of put it on anything. It tastes amazing, and you're getting so much out of it. And just when you open it up and smell it, compared to something you would get at a grocery store, for example, it's like 10 times the intensity of the aroma. So that's all the oils and all the vital nutrients that are going on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then the teas. We have a what we call our golden hour tea, which is sort of the idea. We launched it on the winter solstice, and it's a bunch of sun-absorbing botanicals, flowers and herbs and leaves and stems that are sort of soaking up sun energy throughout the summer. And with the idea of the colder, darker seasons, you can sort of drink your sun with our golden hour tea to kind of warm the body and kind of take in the sun. And in the summertime, it's great as a sun tea as well. So sort of like double down on the sun and really level it up. And then we also have a woman's blend that Keri can talk about.
Yeah, I created a tea called The Return, which is it's like an Ayurvedic blend and of just like different minerals and hormone balancing herbs to kind of support just our own moon cycles. And I did it in conjunction with I call it The Return, which is a 28-day journey like into your body. It's to help support balancing a woman's moon cycle with the moon above, because these were the things that you just weren't taught, growing up. Like I never understood how my body really worked. And I grew up thinking that I was just like a man, that my body and my hormones worked and I had like the same type of cycle. And it wasn't until like my 40s that I even understand really how different our bodies are, and just and how much that worked against us, as women, just thinking that we're supposed to be like men and work the same type of 9 to 5 and slave through the day. And I think it's something I've become so passionate about, just with all the health challenges that women are dealing with, and autoimmune and unexpressed emotions. And so it's not woo woo at all. It's just a really gorgeous like I call it a journey. So it's just goes through the moon phases, and that every phase you eat a little differently, you move a little differently, you have different practices, different herbs, different support, different somatic experiences and things that you can do. And then the product kind of helps it moves through that whole system as well, that whole 28-day lunation cycle. And Mia's taken it and she is just so wowed by it. She's like, I feel like you made this just for me. Had I known this when I was 12, it's the kind of thing that I wish that every woman or every girl, when they start bleeding, really understands how their body works, and that we are not supposed to push through like men do. It's not just start bleeding and throw a coffee in and just push through. It's no, you need to stop and rest and listen to your body, because the body just has so much incredible wisdom. And I think it's really important that women understand that. And I think it's important that we pass that on to our children. And then, the blend is just this gorgeous. It has roses to soften the heart. There's nervous system support allies in there, like linden and oat straw for the adrenals. And then the two together are just this gorgeous combination. So that's just been a really great thing that I've been working on, just my years of studying women's health and human potential. And, and it's stuff from passed down from the lineages, just wise women just knew these things. And I feel like a lot of it skipped some of these generations, and now we're kind of paying the aftermath. So the moon is the most feminine thing, it's this wild, precious, chaotic, amazing thing, and it ebbs and it flows, and so do we.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's really important. And it's really interesting, having that, the polarity between Erik and I is the masculine kind of holding a lot of things, and the feminine, we're creating in different ways, but to support the our biology.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, what you're describing about the tea really fits the feral future brand. It
Yeah.
really goes. I was just speaking with a friend yesterday who was feeling like her hormones were not quite right, and I said, I feel like you need some herbs. And what? And now I'm not an herbalist, but I am pretty tapped into the ether. And what came through was hollyhock, which I thought was very interesting. It sounds like something that might go
Yeah.
actually with what you were talking about. Like it would be a complementary. When I went and looked at it, it does help to balance
Yeah.
hormones and things that are dry. It helps them to become more fluid, and things that are too fluid. It's an adaptogen, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many gifts that, like you said, have really been lost. I feel like my mom's generation was so leave the old world behind and let's just go with the modern conveniences and modern medicine. And, there's definitely been a gap. But thankfully, there's also plenty of wisdom keepers keeping it alive. So,
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, we've learned so much, and I mean, we feel like we're standing on the shoulders of giants and just sort of saying the same message our way, but that's what has to be done. Like in order for the message to get out, it has to be heard, right? And so if you can't hear what someone else is saying, it doesn't mean that the way you say it might land better than somebody else. And so
mhm.
I think we all kind of get into this with a little bit of imposter syndrome until we realize that, like, no, this is important stuff to kind of to share and say it in our way, because we all reach audiences differently.
Yeah, exactly. So, what's coming to my mind is Keri, you've obviously received biofield tuning from me. You both received a relationship session, which is, such a useful thing. In a relationship session, we put people in chairs facing each other and work their combined field. How has your sort of understanding of the biofield, of the electromagnetic nature of our bodies, of our life, of our health, how has that informed what you have been creating, if at all?
Well, I think so much of it. I mean, I think like the teachings of biofield tuning, just even like that we are electromagnetic beings, like I think that's huge. And like, and also just the, like you and doing so much biofield tuning, like this connection to source that I never had prior to. Um, and just like thinking of my body with like within circuitry and how it needs like tending to, and like the blockages that just kind of come up from like modern life, or just things that I might have been carried within me through through my own lineage. um and so I feel like there's like a purity that I'm really passionate about. There's like a purity and a beauty and a coherence that definitely is a result. Like when I'm creating, I feel like I'm tapped into, well, one, I'm definitely tapped into the ether in a whole way, especially through you. Like you've always, like, a lesson I always hear you in my mind is like, there's not one original thought. Like we're all kind of connected. And I think of that a lot when I think of the mallows and how that started, because you even said to me after a tuning, you know, we might not be like working together the way we're currently working together forever, but we're going to be working together forever in other ways, like this collaborative way. And that always really stuck with me. And there's just, and so, and how the whole story with the mouths and how that was all created. And then how like we're creating now, I think there's just like, I think the connection to source is huge, and then the purity and the coherence that I'm always trying to do before I actually even create something, like really tapping into this like open expansive place, like what's true and what's real, and what's mine and what's someone else's. Like, obviously there's so much with like distortion and projections and stuff going on in the collective, and so, and what's mine to hold and what's mine to tell. And even creating the course that I created came out of a relationship thing with Erik. Like he called me out on my stuff, and he said the worst thing, is like, he told me I was being like my mother. And it was like the thing that I have, and I love my mother and I chose her for a reason, but she went a conventional way, you know, and I went the totally opposite way. I was like getting to the root, very alternative, trying to like fix everything. And I realized after doing that how exhausting it was. And it was almost the same pattern, but just it was different. Like we were both trying to, you know, hers was conventional medicine and mine, it was just an external source trying to fix us versus like tapping in to like the wisdom like of the body and this knowledge and this innate knowledge. And so I'm so grateful for, you know, the tunings that we've had together, that you've done with me, that you've done with Erik. There's been so many things that have been opened up. But my light body, you know, I go outside and I'm grounding first thing in the morning. You know, I still use my tuning forks. You know, there's to me, that's like just second nature. It's like the more I do that stuff, the better I am at creating and doing good stuff in the world. And I think that's like, it feels like a different thing. It's not about fixing. It's about like loving, you know, it's like loving self in a way that feels so good that you have no other, there's nothing else you can do but create and try and give and try and do good. And so that there's so many synergies within like biofield tuning, and, you know, and also just the other work you do with like the singing and the toning and the vocal, you know, and the whole idea of like, you know, the body is a human instrument and it needs to be cleaned, you know, all the time. And we need to take care of ourselves and we need to tune it up. And when things happen, we like, it's our responsibility to do it. No one else is, you know, like, yes, it's great to have help. And like, if I can call you and like, I am in a thing and I need help, I need like, you know, a quick tune up or something like something. Yes. But also this idea that like, we are so freaking powerful and so wildly, like we can really do anything. We just have to like clear that noise that says that like we can't.
That's exactly it, is in that clearing the noise for sure. Yeah. And then that's going to reflect in what you create, you know, the degree of coherence in what is created for sure. Yeah. How about you, Erik? What's your thoughts about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's interesting, right? Because it kind of goes both ways, because you can fix the biofield, or sort of use the biofield to find out what's wrong, but there's still the physical, tangible element that also comes into play. And through you know, working the physical, you can release the energetic, while you know, working the energetic can release the physical. That kind of happens in both directions, and they need to support each other. And I think somebody who's maybe like doing biofield tuning type work, but not eating a diet and not taking care of their body, like it's only going to go so far. So it's really it's a like coherence thing where you need to be doing it all, and adapting to all of it. But as long as sort of everything's moving in that right direction, generally speaking, it's going to be improved. And I think there's also a balance to it of not taking things too far. Like she was saying before, if you're like so hell bent on doing everything perfectly, then you're actually going to get unhealthy, because it's impossible. It's an impossible task, and you're going to drive yourself into the ground. And so that's where like the just enjoying life part of it comes in. And you know, just like food for your soul. Like sometimes you want to just eat a pizza because it's just going to make you feel good, regardless of, you know, that feel good feeling. Maybe not physically, but like in the moment, you're going to get something out of that that's do it for you. But yeah, I think that balance is probably the most important part of looking after all of things, and being aware that it's there, and knowing and being able to tell if you do kind of stray, you know, what caused it probably, and what you're doing wrong, so you can kind of course correct, or just offset to some degree. But finding that direction of supporting the physical and the energetic and the spiritual together, I think is really the most important part of it. And yeah, and tapping into that etheric thing, like the idea of feral foods, for me, like I got that through podcasts and other types of, you know, things of connecting with feral and attaching to the wild. But the idea of feral future actually came to me after like a spiritual journey type thing that I was working on. And I found myself at, you know, 12:30 in the morning, you know, kind of coming back to reality, and just like this thing just came through me of the larger image, which is feral future. I had never really thought about doing anything beyond food. And all of a sudden, I'm thinking about, turnkey homesteads and, uh, fabrics and, everything in our life being in a much more intentional way. And I don't think that I necessarily thought of that, but I tapped into that frequency, and it kind of, I was able to access it as opposed to thinking about it. The idea was out there. I just had to tune into it. And all of a sudden, for whatever reason in that moment, I tuned into that, and here we are a few years later, and we're, doing it full time. So you never know where that spark or that inspiration is going to come from, and whether it's something I thought of or something that found me through, resonance.
Resonance. That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Neat. That's very cool. Have you seen any questions go by since you've got the YouTube open? Anybody's watching?
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat. I'm not seeing anything, but if anybody does have a question that's watching the chat, feel free to type it in. We're keeping an eye on it.
Yeah, we'd be happy to answer them. Is there anything else that you guys want to share about the vision or the products, or maybe what your own kind of growth curve and lessons have been in the process of putting this together, right? Because startups, are mirrors in so many ways, and deliver a lot of lessons and insights, and sometimes, in a really not the easiest ways. But what would have been some of your biggest lessons in getting this off the ground?
Well, I think there's multiple lessons, positive and negative. One of them is, it's humbling. I'm a surfer as well, and the ocean is humbling in a very specific kind of way. Like, if you go out in the ocean and you're not ready, like, it's not going to take it easy on you. It's going to show you right where you're at and punish you for not being ready, right? Like, and a business is the same way. Like, it's showing us all the places where we're not maybe doing things right, where we're lacking, where we're not focusing correctly, tied into old beliefs that aren't, serving us anymore. All of those things are happening, and it's challenging to sort of accept them sometimes. And other times it's like, no, I really feel like this is the right way regardless. Like, so it tests you to, like, do you really believe in this? And also, and gives you the opportunity to sort of pursue it more completely, and also to humble you and show you where you've done wrong. And I feel like understanding that has been an important thing. And also, I kind of mentioned earlier the idea of sort of like imposter syndrome, or like, who am I to, make another hot cocoa? Like, there's a million brands out there. Like, who am I to, do something different? But, you go out and you try it and you believe in yourself, and suddenly you do come up with something special, and people try it and they're like, wow, this is amazing. I've never had anything like this before. And you're like, okay, well, that's a sign from the universe telling me, like, I'm on the right track. And so there's sort of this accounting that has to be done of, like, the things you're doing wrong and the things you're doing right, and what's working and what's not. And I think at the end of the day, you sort of have a direction of, like, no, we're going to keep going. Like, we're going to see this through, or it's time to, pull the pin and get out of this thing, So it's been, and also, navigating a personal relationship, a romantic relationship at the same time.
Yeah, not easy. Neither one is easy. And then you combine them, and
right. That's all intermingled, and stuff that bleeds over from one to the other. And
yeah.
How about you, Keri?
Yeah. Well, I feel like, so I've been helping businesses for a long time. It's something I've been really passionate about, is helping businesses. And so I felt like Erik wanted to do this, and I felt like, oh, I could help, I can do this. Like, this is what I do. And there's times where, the creation element has been so amazing. And when we're, like, both on and, like, staying in our lanes, like, the two of us together, there's nothing that we can't do. And it feels like there's an energy that's bigger than us that is kind of guiding all of this. But like Erik said, there was definitely a humbling component. Even when we put together our website, like, I was so passionate about our website. I loved it so much. I did all my storytelling. We, gorgeous photography, and it's just was like it. I didn't know about launching a business in like 2025, like what that was going to be like, because I'm not a tech person. I'm not an analytics person. I'm not a Google or Meta. Like all the things about social media, I knew what to do, but now I'm doing them. And it was like basically a relearn. You know, I feel like the word for me is like an unlearning of everything. It's unlearn. So all of that was challenging for sure. And then I feel like I was reflecting on this morning, like the feminist agenda really has played such a role, because I grew up being told that I'm like, you know, can do anything a man can do. I should be independent. And it had me living in a very like neck up type of way. And I feel like everything now is, and so I'm trying to unlearn all the things that I've learned through that and really stay in my lane as like a woman who is guiding, like who knows a lot, but is also like really like when Erik is leading us, that's when things are really great. And so I have to like stay in my lane as like, and I love to now follow that direction versus giving the direction. And so, and there's a lot of shutting my mouth and a lot of like duct tape that I put on, and allowing him to have his experience and not take it personally, and not trying to fix it. You know, that we have this fixing reflex as women, like we could do it, you know, and that is it been a huge thing. And because for me, the business doesn't work if we don't work. So I see the bigger vision of us is like him and I as a couple needs to be in our like ultimate whole place, staying in our lane as man and woman. And like I say, I create, he builds, you know, like, and that's, but there is so much unlearning from this agenda of like the fixing and the like, I can do anything a man can do, that I'm like, I'm really having that experience right now. And the more I practice it, the more we thrive. And I believe in that as in our biology. I believe that's how we, not to say that I don't love, creating and being success and money and all that. Yes. But there's something about this massive unlearning for me as a woman in partnership with my partner, that has been just like a whole crash course in study that I never would have expected to learn. And you don't learn from a podcast, or you don't learn from,
That's for sure.
It's like,
yeah, it's like knowledge versus wisdom. You might be able to know it,
yeah.
but until you put it into practice,
Yeah. You don't learn from a retreat or a book. It's really like lived. And I am a good, like I said, I believe in heaven on earth. I believe in, we're here to have an extraordinary experience. And that's Erik's ultimate vision within Feral Future. And my job is to inspire him to create that, to have that for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the divine masculine and the divine feminine in a balanced, healthy space together, right? Both within and without, in partnership. I've been with my husband for 30 years, and there has been no workshop, no method, nothing I've ever done that provides the crucible of real transformation that a committed relationship can. I said that we had a sandpaper relationship. We like sanded off all each other's rough edges for many years, but this is definitely worth the pain and discomfort to where you can get, together in a conscious relationship, where you're consciously creating together and, really consciously co-creating a better future, right? For yourselves, for your community, for the world at large. And I agree, food is so central to everything we do. But my very first paper, I'm back in my PhD program, and the very first paper that I wrote in my very first class was not on biofields, it was on cows. Because I was like, at the end of the day, what's really more important a cow and everything that a cow provides, or like a scientific understanding of the biofield. But what it really circled back to was this sort of holistic vision of how it's all one biofield, and it's all one environment, and it's all reciprocal relationship that needs to be resonant and harmonious. And that the world that we have been living in that separates everything into parts and pieces and bottom lines is not going to serve us in the future, and that we really have to have a deep ecological understanding of the unity of all things and the need for harmony in all things. And I know that's very idealistic, right? But I always say that, somebody's got to be an idealist here. And
Sure.
so, your vision is idealistic, but you're doing it and adding, making the world taste better. So that counts for a lot.
Yeah, we actually just recently did kind of a discussion on the idea of like, nature versus like artificial versus natural, and I kind of almost had a download on it that like everything is natural. We're living in the system of nature, like, and we are humans as part of nature, and everything around us is nature. So how can something in nature, made of nature, not be natural? So we've put this tag on it that it's synthetic or man-made or not natural or forever chemicals or whatever these things are. But yet, they always seem to find that, those oil spills, some bacteria came out and cleaned it all up, or these, microplastics. So if you eat tamarind, it like clears it out of your body. It's like there's all these things that we're always finding that like, oh, this horrible, awful thing, actually, there's something already out there that exists, because nature is like a balancing agent. It's like it always goes back to neutral or to even. And just the idea of kind of tapping into that, is us living in a city any different than an ant living in an anthill or a bee living in a hive? It's just our version of that manipulation of nature to support our needs. And so, even within that, I think it's out of balance, but I think that we're still in nature doing nature things in our own way. And our perspective or our awareness of the time span is where it kind of breaks down, because, if we all stop being here in 50 years, nature will consume everything again, and it'll be like we were never here, And so I'm kind of less concerned about the whole idea of synthetic. Like, obviously, if it damages me in the short term and I'm not able to move things forward, that's one thing. But I'm less afraid or less like resistant to those things. And again, I think it's a balance thing. We also talked about the idea of detachment versus indifference. To be indifferent is not a good place to be, because stuff is going to happen to you because you're just not aware of it. But to be aware of it and to not let it capture your emotions is probably the more important thing, to know what's going on, but not have it rule your life. And I think that's another, issue that comes up with kind of the etheric or all of those ideas, is that, everything is nature, regardless of what we've been told, and really just tapping into it in the right way, and, incorporating, and like we said earlier, the good things, the beneficial things. They're all just tools. You can use it to, a hammer can build a house or break a window. It's like it's a destructive or a creative force depending on who wields it and what their intentions are. And I think that's true for everything. And science is just as an attempt to understand the world around us. And just because we're in this paradigm now of materialism and isolationism and breaking things down to their individual component parts, doesn't mean that it's right or wrong. It's just one way to look at it, and we can utilize that while also be going back to the older ways, the Tesla ideas, and people like I just lost the name off the top of my head, but he did the universal one.
Walter Russell.
Walter Russell, yeah, like those kind of ideas of ahead of their time, but also going back to similarities to things like the emerald tablets of Thoth that were found in the pyramid, so to speak. Like they're those ideas, and that's all science. And I think it all needs to be explored, and like just biofield tuning as a modality. You can show the results of it, but you may not be able to explain it fully, especially like the remote sessions. How can modern science would tell you that that's nonsense, but yet it works and there's results, and people are doing it every day and getting benefits from it. So yeah, I think it's kind of a long-winded answer to that, but I think it all sort of comes together in this idea of like, the only thing we know is that we don't know. And anybody that tells you they know is probably lying, because they think they know, or they have an opinion about, this is where I'm at right now, I think is a place to be. But I'm open to new suggestions, and I'm willing to drop them if I find something that is a better explanation or easier to understand, all those kinds of ideas. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've come to the end of our hour. So why don't you guys, I know this is going to be in the show notes below, but how do people find you if they want to order, right? Because everything can be ordered online.
Yeah. So we have a full e-commerce website. It's feralfuture.com. And yeah, we only ship in the US at the moment. We're not shipping outside of the US. Generally with things like marshmallows, we're shipping early in the week. Mondays and Tuesdays, we generally ship, especially to the East Coast. Because of temperature, we want to make sure they get there within a few days. They're good for about a week on the counter and 5 to 6 weeks in the fridge. We treat them kind of like the idea of fresh bread or baked goods or farmers market produce, where within a couple of days they're fine, but anything longer than that, they need to be refrigerated. And we ship them in cold packs, in either 2-day or 3-day shipping to get them to you within the time frame, so they don't have issues. And then we're also on Instagram at Your Feral Future. We have a podcast on YouTube and Spotify, the Feral Future Podcast. So we talk about a lot of this kind of fun stuff. So if anything resonates or you want to hear more, we dive deep and do a lot of these things. And so yeah, anything else?
Yeah, no, I think that was good. Yeah, we had so much fun with you, Eileen.
Yeah, nice. Well, wonderful. Well, thanks so much, guys. I love what you're doing. I am out of marshmallows, so I'm definitely going to go get more now. I'm like, my mouth is watering at the thought of marshmallows and hot chocolate.
And we didn't really talk about dandelion, but that's another love that you guys share. That Team Dandelion, for sure.
Yeah,
and that's in our tea.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, they're so vital.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, it's looking really great on both of you. You're both fabulous representatives for your lifestyle and your products, your beautiful glow. And
we're so grateful.
Yeah.
I want to say one quick thing that I did, what you as like have been, as Erik said, and we started in the beginning, an inspiration, but like the threads that have been woven because of you is just kind of like between us and our relationship with our animals, with the business. Like you are really like our fairy godmother, and we're so grateful. And it's so fun to like have, it's such an Aquarian relationship that we have to, like you're a colleague and you have friends and a teacher and a mentor and a fairy godmother and all these, it's just amazing too. And then we love to go to the festivals together and, and do fun things, because life is meant to be fun. And so you've been such a huge part of the fun part of it all, because I know you truly believe that. I know that you believe that's why we should be here, or why we're here. And it's something we're really trying to incorporate. It doesn't, like, we've done the heavy lifting. Let's enjoy it now.
Yeah, nice. Well, I love being thought of as the fun fairy godmother. I'll wear that crown.
Wear it proud.
Nice. Yeah. All right. Thank you both so much. And everybody check out their stuff, as you will not regret it.
Thank you, Eileen.